Who are these people?
This is American tradition. And this is American tradition.
Although he's not the slickest vulture to have ever picked a carcass, he's just the kind that catches at our darkest for an easy harvest. Just the kind to serve us to the markets and see you lose your home before his donors let him bargain. Give a cop the go-ahead to shoot you in the leg before they let you harm a target. And being an American, I love watching garbage, but it's overload. And this is not my first rodeo. I don't drop mics, but I choke slam podiums, and so we go. Little bit of Troy, a little Roanoke. Karma, come and hold me close. Tell me how you told me, so I'm overboard. Blowing out, I'm Holy Ghost and stolen shroud. Soaked in old petroleum and calling down the rolling clouds. I slowly moved my mouth and formed the only sound I knew. And it was always out of tune, but it's the ugly fucking truth, and now it's flowing out. I break the banks, flood the basin. I transcribed a translation, spoken out of Morse code and straight into capsaicin. And God, I hope it suits your station, cause it's my last release that won't require proof of vaccination. I got all my rates adjusted for infection and inflation, bloating and decay and all the perks of radiation. We see the virus for the profits, not the patients. Honey, look at all these records set for all these corporations. When COVID started spreading, they were all the side of celebration. Now they got one record quarter in the bag and now they're all impatient. They would rather have a toe tag than see a mouth to feed, or worse, a kid in need of education. And honey, only money's making that distinction. You know they're gonna thin the herd straight through starvation to the brink of our extinction. Capitalism favors innovation, and it is never at a loss for ways to make us hate our liberation and cloud our vision. Somewhere in America, a man with no money in the bank is on his way to City Hall to go complain about proposals for a soup kitchen. And he will never see that tiny bit of irony that floats in all the tragedy of his position. And he's not the only one, it's an American tradition. And so it goes in endless perpetuity. We've never deviated from the mission. I sat out the ritual, I listened from the sand, held my head between my hands and muttered dying would be easy, life's an everyday decision. And I'm not the only one, it's an American tradition. I bet you thought that Trump would go to jail and Joe would listen. And you're not the only one, it's an American tradition. I bet you thought that Trump would go to jail and Joe would listen. And you're not the only one, it's an American tradition.
Who are these people?
Here it is.
Yeah. American Desires, man. Oh, here we go.
I don't mean to sound alarmist, but most of what they let you read is garbage. Most of it's designed to warp our minds until subconsciously you find you'll take the time to lick their boots free of grime and wipe their minds free of tarnish. Oil is the centerpiece, a body count of millions is the garnish. So how's it feel to know we funded every carcass? That every year our taxes pay for carpet bombing Gaza under shroud of darkness? That we spend enough a year to house and feed each homeless person in the streets on turning families in apartment buildings in the Middle East to bloody craters full of charred garments? And our media is silent at best. At worst, they can find it in themselves to call war crimes clashes and label children burned to ashes terrorists who played a stupid game and reaped the harvest. And every time we try to paint the truth, the news sends all their slugs to suck off all the varnish and distort it into something harmless. The media will hang you by your feet until you're half asleep, So yes, I'm here to set you free, but freedom won't be sweet because you'll fall 1,000 feet when I come cut you out your harness. They say those who dream the deepest fall the farthest. They also say that home is where the heart is. But if home for you is Gaza, Netanyahu's got you painted as a target. Perhaps it's not the impact, but it's what you see when falling that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the sound of all those children crying out in those apartments that will hit the hardest. Maybe all those little bodies scattered in the dirt will hit the hardest. Maybe seeing human lives assigned such little worth will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that you're paying for the darkest of atrocities committed on this earth that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that we give 10 million a day to the oppressors who possess the kind of Medicare you'll die in debt before you see that's going to hit the hardest. Maybe then you'll see you've always had more in common with the commoners whose slaughter we fund every day in Gaza than your senators or bosses. Maybe then you'll see our country never had a conscience. Maybe then the retroactive guilt will make you nauseous. Maybe what hits harder than the impact is the act of being conscious, of knowing your complicity and helplessness to try and stop the bloody deeds of Congress. That no matter who's in office, America preserves its foreign interests by whatever means its greed demands, however monstrous. We'll always need a place to train our Contras. And Biden's got a backup plan should harm befall the Holy Land. Wipe it off the map, he'll draw it back on with an iron hand. He demands an Israel or reasonable effigy to exercise democracy and colonize the Middle East, regardless of the human cost or phosphorus atrocities, all bought and paid with money. They rerouted out the budget for the non-essential things like ever making Flint's water clean. Maybe what hits hardest is the day you see this country for its actual priorities and nevermore know honest peace attempting sleep. Maybe then you'll look at politicians making speeches like a blood-encrusted beast espousing destiny to empty seats and fellow leeches. As the gauntlet of democracy extends its brutal reach, like a giant wave of trash come to crash on foreign beaches, maybe build a base, throw a flag down, and heavily pollute the region. Rape your ecosystems, gut your fauna, and congratulate you on your new allegiance. Oops, we mean alliance. This is something mutual unless you're non-compliant. We've stolen something crucial on which you can be reliant. So maybe what hits hardest is the centrist saying both sides need to stop the violence. Those would be the very same centrists saying we should all accept police brutality, who hem and haw and clutch their fucking pearls and spend their time condemning riots. But very soon will come the day the centrists all get censored like the rest of us, and pious as they'll try to be, they won't stay quiet. But they'll just end up shouting in the void that they were all so quick to render us subscribers, and it will be too late to light the fires. So far away tonight, there burn the spires of a region set ablaze for which you've paid for every pyre, which is why your checks weren't all $600 higher. Call it foreign interests or American desires.
Who are these people?
Read my lips. Brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their Visa Maxes. Topple Congress off their axis, mobilize the homeless, give them axes, call it praxis. Chop a couple limbs off the legislative branches. We'll show you the difference between air as a human right and guaranteed oxygen access. Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are calling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance, and all to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent. So I got a bone to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the ligaments. I'll pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted out their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in. And what happens next will survive in only text, cause there won't be any evidence. There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. And let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment. We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman. Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time, honey. Cue the thunderclap and strike the theremin. And so we end the great experiment.
It feels weird to not end a song and say, and that's the great experiment. And when I try not to, I just have to all the more.
And that's the great experiment.
Who are these people?
Shepherd of Hopes.
If you fool me once, it's because I didn't think a guard was needed. If you fool me twice, it's because I didn't learn the lesson, so it bears repeating. And if you try the same play 3 times running, it's because you know what's coming, and you didn't come to lead. You came to purposefully be misleading. Democracy is dry. It's been a century bleeding. The husk is gaping open to the sky, out in the field where all the sheep just keep on circling and worrying and bleeding. They're waiting for the shepherd that they've tried to hide their faith in, but he's so appealing. They'd gladly give their fleece. It's such a freeing feeling that even when he leads them to the ledge and starts to urge them on, they're positively beaming. They were told that they were on their way to save democracy, so even as they plummet, they just glow. They don't consider screaming. And halfway up the cliff, the shepherd's cozy little mittens wrap around the staff of shattered human hopes on which he's leaning. He shows the gentle grin that used to stir your inner spark, and he says, "Not me, us," as he gestures to the oligarchs. He knows that if he runs, they're going to stop him like a stolen car. And he'll easily surrender because it bought a lot of time for laying mines in all the grassroots. Suddenly, the tiniest of movements gets you blown apart. Suddenly, you're in a play that's set on an election day and voting for the fire, unaware you're playing Joan of Arc. Suddenly, the shepherd pulls the rug and slips a hood across your clueless mug and everything goes zero dark. I'm gonna warn you once more before it's 2024 and you fuck around and find out who your heroes are. Take a step back from the herd and you'll learn that you can spot who all the shearers are. If you really want to know the product that they're selling, I can take you where the mirrors are. If you think your voice is finally ready, I can tell you where the lyrics are. I hid them in a box I had to bury neath the cobble when they carpet bombed the promenade and raided all the street bazaars. Now all we've got's the marketplace, and you're too broke to even bother asking what the options for your treatment are. Suddenly, the raw debris of homeless human dignity will find it has 100 teeth for every badge and sweeper's arm. Suddenly, they speak in solidarity, and each is armed. Suddenly, the sheep can see the shepherd for his truest form, and all pitch in at once to help him buy the farm. Now it's zero dark, and all is calm and peaceful, save the distant wail of sirens that approach beside the flames of dawn. Suddenly, the carrot's just a string that's on a stick, and all your movements make you sick because the prize is gone. Now, we could go and flee into the forest low and meek, or we can exercise our right to feast and go and graze on Biden's lawn. Because he's been sowing seeds that seep a toxin out to sap a bit from each of us and keep on leaching decades after Biden's gone. So regardless who they summon out of hell to come and do the job, it will not feel like Biden's gone. But in that time of hopelessness, you cannot trust the shepherd when he once again comes asking you to humor him his siren song. And it's cute that you can innocently, honestly assume that's just a symptom of a system that was wired wrong and not the standard feature, basic function, primary objective of a mass hypnosis firebomb. You don't need to know the words to cry along. Someday it'll hit you like an officer who pistol whipped his ride along. Broke their jaw, kept his job, and kept it moving right along. That voting isn't red or blue, or black or white, or right or wrong. Voting's like a firing squad where you can choose the firearm. It's slow extinction by and large. It's Super Tuesday supercharged. It's all your futures, roots and all, just tossed out on a garbage barge. It's everybody dropping out to push the biggest oligarch. It's everybody voting fire, registered as Joan of Arc.
Who are these people?
So yeah, from the Grift Home Companion, here is Hello Somebody. Hello somebody desperate. Hello somebody gullible. Hello anyone left who can swallow the bait who ain't already rocking a stomach full. Maybe they knew and they ate it the same because there's no other way to assure that their stomach's full. Maybe they just know that they love the taste, so they'll put it away by the shovelful. So hello to somebody trying to feed us the light blue shit like it tastes any different or makes any Democrat any less culpable. Hello to someone who couldn't be troubled to mention a march for the healthcare struggle and spent the day cozy with donors who matter, who keep our progressives all wealthy and comfortable. Well, I recommend your protests be anything but peaceable and all your disobedience be decidedly uncivil. You don't need a permit to declare that you have principles and love. It's only natural that seeing all these fascist assholes stacking up the Capitol would manifest in something loud and passionate and visceral. Keep it in your heart, because it's the only way we'll ever start to flesh out something livable. Maybe that was literal. Maybe our utopia is built from all the sinews of the moderates and liberals, salvaged when they broke their backs with NPR gymnastics, simultaneously hiding from the truth while sticking out their necks for pedophiles, Nazis, and the upper fucking echelon of World War criminals. But baby doll, it's not your fault. It's really all subliminal. They've sewn the propaganda into every thread of visuals, grown the propaganda off of truly noisome victuals. Rows of propaganda propagated out of ritual, straight into your ocular and straight out your occipital, straight up to the point you flip on everything that's pivotal. Any crucial aspect of survival for the middle class becomes the holy unicorn you ridicule and snicker at and praise each piece of legislature dancing round the borders of the looking glass. Well, it's not truly possible to try and stop the suffering of people that you spend each waking moment simply looking past. Walking past a sobbing homeless family, like, look at that. Bet they'd be in better shape if they'd have voted Democrat. Hello, somebody ignorant enough to still believe that there's some fundamental difference in the moral stance between the couple barrels that they're staring at. Like one's just got a slug, the other's loaded up with sarin gas. Both of them are pointed at your temple, and they're both equipped to make this breath your final gasp. Hello, somebody dense enough to split the hairs of which one is the kinder executioner with what.
Who are these people?
Apologies to Simon and Garfunkel. Hello, Blacklist, my old friend. I knew you'd show your face again and toll the bell for decent men amid the sound of sirens. In restless dreams, I walk alone down newly unpaved county roads, past newly empty rows of homes amid the sound of sirens. The words of the prophets have been edited to bits, censored, spun, and shadow banned and flashbanged in the blitz, condemned for every speech before they have the chance to spit that their spit might dare to touch the sound of sirens. And all our slaughtered prophets, like some human hailstones, fell and drowned in liquid Afghan funds that Biden froze himself. And for hours we endured their voices crying out for help. as they echoed in the well of sirens. Their words were scrubbed from subway walls, fed to the tigers of Tammany Hall, and our Constitution encompassing all within the sound of sirens. And all our leaders bowed and prayed, and mourned the corpses they all made, lit candles at their paupers' graves, and blessed the sound of sirens. They wrung their hands to empty air, since they'd allowed no cameras there, and nothing changed, and no one dared disturb the sound of sirens. Fools, said I, you do not know what tempest in this country grows that soon will swell to lay you low, consume you in its undertow. What human waves, what human foam will wash your gorgeous gilded homes as far away as ancient Rome and drown the sound of sirens. So use your voice that it might teach these numbered days our voice has reach, and cry that all might hear your speech above the sound of sirens.
Who are these people?
So yeah, this piece came out of it, and I actually have this very well might get turned into a song, because I have a chorus that might go really nicely with this, but that's not on the menu tonight. So yeah, here it is in spoken word form. This is America by Proxy. Posthumous synthetic beetles, USA by Proxy. Toxins in your water, tiny plastic in your offspring. Plastic in the groundwater, plastic in the clouds, oxys in the reservoir. We tried to flush them out, but we didn't move them very far, just out into the river, where the critters didn't want it, but we nonetheless delivered. Impact isn't something we historically consider till our waterways are fetid and our crops are dry and bitter. And we won't connect the dots before the heavy cost of winter, before the DNC would have us vote for lesser Hitler. America by Proxy, propaganda for beginners. It's Jimmy Kimmel interviewing chatbot Heinrich Himmler. As those who march for peace are being gassed by the police, a separate, safer crowd demands the bombing never cease, until all that's left of Gaza are its ashes on the breeze. Only then can the oppressor soundly sleep. America by Proxy, 2023. It's the AI-rendered Beatles John and George were forced to be. It's AI-rendered Edith Piaf singing on your screen as the wishes of the dead are dipped in piss behind the scenes. That's what gives that hideous, uncanny valley sheen, that plastic sort of lifelessness that's seeping out the seams. But the hologram of Freddy they tried passing off as queen will tell you death does not release you from contractual routine. It won't free you from the leeches that already drank you clean. Those suited, smirking parasites are not so quick to flee. Your body won't be cold, but they'll be plugging tours and teas. They've plotted out your comeback. You just won't be there to see. It's America by Proxy, one giant failing mall, a year at most from shutting down and leveling it all. And once it's been demolished, I'll come leave a ring of salt and pay respect to John and George. I know.
Who are these people?
This week has been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
Let's go.
Are you good? Mitch?
Okay, Mitch. Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press?
Our greatest threats are lesser evils, joining hands to hold us back. Worried looks from heartless people, tearful words from soulless hacks, faux concern from thieves and rapists, thoughts and prayers from Epstein's friends, moral laws from fascist racists, healthcare laws from Cigna's pens. Bought and sold progressive leaders say we're starving much too loud, but all I see are meaty speakers talking down to hungry crowds. Squad and all their sleazy leeches feast on workers plump with clout, stalk them through the tallest grassroots, track the unions, drag them down. reap their labor, eat their labor, none too proud to suck it out, none too shamed to freeze your wage, then beg for change like fund me now. Rush me $20 or our democracy will surely drown. Rush me $20 so we can cluster bomb 100 towns. Rush me $20 and once you've emptied out your bank account, you'll get to say you've made us proud and BlackRock gets to take your house. Just rows and rows of perfect clones of vacant homes, raised to bones, then carried off by corporate crows, beneath a gaping sky where nothing lives and nothing grows, but hungry money swells and bloats, and money-hungry grifters gloat to fleece the coats and trust and votes of sheep and sacrificial goats. They coax their hopes like open throats, where leeches feast on helpless hosts. The offer sees their beast invoked. The BlackRock altar belches smoke. It rises that the world may know they've christened 2 new CEOs, one for press and public show, and one that just the board will know, who wears a crown of migrants' hands, who smiles when the cities flood, who has been anointed head to toe in workers' rights and children's blood, who bought the bill that soaked organic vegetables in fracking mud, who made his billions banking on technologies for tracking us, who filmed us every day as we kept smiling where the camera was, and streaming from our cancer clusters, chatting up some Langley bugs who take the time to listen when you think that no one gives a shit. They're nice enough to help you sew your Discord into stripper clips, lead you to an act that they have planned out like a business trip, show you where the buzzwords go when manifesting manuscripts. It's manufactured terrorism, crafted by precision tip, sanded past all recognition, ground beneath clandestine grit, carefully conducted by the feds in the orchestral pit, watched by millions, none the wiser, smiling wide, applauding it. So who yells fire in the theater when they don't smell the hint of smoke? What audience enwrapped and eager rises up as one to go and flees as from some gnarled reaper, leaves the actors there alone? Who would hear one frantic teacher, warnings blared through tears and foam, say, rob yourselves of entertainment, leave your seats, but don't go home. The war outside is greater than these actors care to show. We've one night left before containment. Early dawn, they'll drop the dome. The streets tonight need all your anger. Playing now, the fall of Rome.
Who are these people?
This is called Pull String. Her hands are bound behind her candidate, who found the perfect hill on which to lay it down for good, who she might not agree with on apartheid or celebrating war crimes, but talks just like she could. He's got the IDF's back and the CIA's back like a Democrat should. Mr. Anti-Establishment didn't start the fire, but he's slipping on his hood. Her voice is grafted to a candidate who might not always speak for her, but what is she to say? Why bother harping on an issue that Americans won't listen to? It seems like such a waste. But what activism is saying they don't give a shit, but if I don't, why would they? So way to rob yourself of agency, then chain yourself to genocide and look the other way. I love to see a fella running Democrat, taking stacks of money from a GOP super PAC, calling out corruption in the giant fucking country club he's clearly been accepted at, but wants to be the leader of. He knows which way the money runs, knows it paves a leader's path. And human rights for Palestine historically don't lead to that, so he will not address it as he doesn't see a need for that. And welcome to the attitude our country's politicians have displayed toward Palestinians since back before they cracked the will of Arafat. And so the story goes forever after. We do not speak the P word here or recognize the NABCA. All you'll find are sea lions who volunteered as actors, barking like a manuscript from NAFTA. All you'll find are insulated sycophants intent on justifying why the slaughter done in Palestine is not a voting matter. Tell that to Shireen Abu Akleh. Tell that to the children growing up inside a city where the walls are made of shackles.
Tell that to a mother who is burying her baby, how her son is not our problem because we'll never see his grave. He's just a topic we can mute, or we can scroll right past his face and all the videos of mourners being beaten at his wake. So stuff your poll on what the average voter sees as urgent. They don't get to know the half of what we use as our detergent when we launder all our ISIS cells, our cartels and insurgents. We do not elect the man behind the curtain. We elect the pull string diversion. We elect the lesser evil donors pre-selected best to do unto the Arabs as we did unto the Persians, and do unto the Muslims as instructed by the merchant who provided you with HIMARS that can vaporize a person back into the dust in which we all will find immersion. One arms dealer's genin is another dealer's curse on, and both are just a mark that Lockheed Martin smells a purse on, and voters are the hollow thralls that Congress put a curse on, to vote against their interests every 4 years till they die. And if you show them Palestine, cry better them than I. Though the curse of occupation's taking place within their mind, they will always love their prison long as they are shown the sky. They will sing about their freedoms under Apple's watchful eye as puppets dance and sing should you so pull their strings and wires. They will rally round a man who bears a torch and bears it high and believe him when he tells them that he's here to stop the fire. We are cursed to love our prison and keep lifting up our liars. We are not behind the wheel, we're being crushed beneath the tires, and our blood is in the oil and the plastic on the wipers, and our blood is on the hands of those who cranked inflation higher. And blood is on a vest where press can barely be deciphered, put there by a few Israeli snipers who were aiming at the center mass of truth about American desires. You can sell us any story. We're a nation built of buyers. And we love a good parade. It always makes us feel inspired, like who cares that those were Nazis? Gosh, they had the whitest smiles. So I wouldn't bank on sequels to the Nuremberg trials. If they happen now, they would be confidential, Pfizer style. Redacted paragraphs and empty vials. Close to 80 years before they have to share their files. Luckily, your lesser evil logic lets you justify the nations we've defiled. Lesser evil logic lets you cast a vote for someone that you know is truly vile. Lesser evil logic sees another million bodies thrown upon its hoarder's pile, extending out for miles. So every line I've had to scrap, I turned back into bile. So don't you touch that dial, lest the feds come swarm your door. Guess it isn't safe to say things like I don't support the war, or may Palestine know freedom from the Jordan to its shores, or I'd love to see our senators get trampled by the poor. Any pull-string Dem will tell what they're allowed to stand up for, and how little things like Palestine are better off ignored. Call it voter outreach for desperate remoras when the shark from which they get their scrap starts polling on the floor. And the shark says those who live beneath a brutal occupation should be thankful for their freedoms and their rubble and their gore. And I swear it only makes those bottom feeders love him more. One in particular is beaming for her candidate who found the perfect hill on which to make his final stand. And she will not be deterred by all those pesky little war crimes, will not be deterred by his support for stolen land. He helps her come to terms with how to spin an occupation, forgiving the oppressor is the democratic way. She says her voice is grafted to the candidate who speaks for her. And every time you pull her string, she's nothing new to say. RFK 24.
Who are these people?
This one was actually one that I kind of chipped away at over a while. And then this morning when I saw that they snuck the vote through in the night, after all the public opinion and massive dissent against it, like literally the only people that were opposed to it were people that were very clearly, representing the city in doing so, representing council or, police interests.
Yeah, they were standing to benefit in some way financially from it, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me go now to...
Yeah, this...
Go.
All right. Ready
Blood
when you are.
badge.
Okay. I bet they'll burn the record, because the truth would have them hung. And the record will reflect that there were thousands of tongues screaming "Stop Cop City" at the top of their lungs.
waiting for democracy that never comes. Now in war, you hear a chorus born of voices in defeat. In Georgia, there's a forest full of vibrant, healthy trees. And somewhere in a meeting room no camera ever sees, a council plans on bridging both extremes to build a city where no citizen will sleep. 'Cause every home's as vacant as the soul of every cop that walks its streets. They are empty, cold, and lifeless, like the heart of every officer patrolling on the beat, doling out the beat to all the homeless folks they meet. Another swine smiling while they wallow in your taxes, but they still insist their funding's incomplete. So we had better spend approximately double what we need to make the water safe in Flint so they can train somewhere in peace. Far removed from public view, disturbingly discreet. Somewhere they can breathe and learn the proper way to place a knee. Away from prying eyes and witnesses so quick to scream and start a hurried stream. I guess our heaps of billions wrenched away from education still can't supplement their needs. Well, that's breaking news to me. I was under the impression every city in this country was a playground for police, a space for them to train to be the worst that they could be until they're free of any conscience when they meet us in the streets. I thought that they used Akron as the Stasi soft release. I thought they gave New York a budget big enough to fill the sea. I thought the training ground for the driveway drive-by existed at Los Angeles PD. I think it might be far too late for us to see Atlanta's just a single seed. One they seek to plant in every space that's quiet, safe, and green. They want a grove in every city, one whose harvest picks us clean. And the fruit that forms like tumors on the branches it conceives will curdle every healthy humor should you trust enough to eat. So believe the morbid rumors you hear echo on the breeze, for the forest had its hands up and was calmly on its knees. And I bet they'll burn the record, for the record will concede that Tortuguita had their hands up when the fusillade released, that constituent opinion does not sway you in the least when you're an agent of the fascist beast. And if any cop is listening, then memorize this part. You are more a waste of public space than noble beating heart. You will never be as brave as those you've snuffed out in the dark. You will only leave a stain. You will not make a lasting mark. And the same for every council chair who heard their city speak, who were asked to represent the ones who chose them all to lead, and who opt for more Gestapo because they're frightened and they're weak. Well, you cannot claim democracy, then sleep on free speech like the whisper of a forest creek. You cannot block dissent like it was all some awful dream. Any more than you'd endeavor to remove the children's screams from a damning piece of evidence that we don't need police, and we would gladly trade them each for trees. So I bet they'll burn the record, that our kids will never know how they designed a fascist paradise and vowed to make it so. And death hung in the air one night to consecrate their land with the consummate oppressor's hand. And now, shining in a line, a medal waits for every man in a city where no human stands. Just the guardians of capital with killer's union drip, blood badge on their uniform and bravery on their hip. No humanity to speak of, no compassion on their lips, just Atlanta under full eclipse. And so I bet they'll burn the record, lest the truth would see them hung, for their record will reflect that there were thousands of tongues crying "Stop Cop City" at the top of their lungs, but democracy would never come. That's Blood Badge.
I feel like you should just throw the mic up against the wall on that one too.
Who are these people?
So yeah, off of War Crime Jams to Pork, War Crime Jams to Pork 2. This is Effigies.
Crammed in tight like refugees, sprouting on my spite into effigies of Joe and the rest of these feckless molesters, trimming up hedge funds out of what's left of our destinies. And now he'll dole out a loan from our own tax refunds. He's dumb enough to believe he impressed me. But man, if child poverty was a test and you got 50%, that is not some success to me, but your victory lapping with an ice cream truck, which is really just the peak of this pedo Joe shit show of irony. Go and fly the flag high enough to call the fleet. Bring them to the center of the spectacle, right into the eye of the Odyssey. You can witness those who rape the earth, consistently protected under policy that we will never have the chance to read before we fall asleep. But I can hear the bullfrogs calling me and telling me our purpose should be stringing up the heads of every oligarch for all to see. Mount them on the tallest trees, point at all the CEOs like we defunded all of these. This is me in purest form, speaking to you honestly. Speaking through the tears, may they force you to acknowledge me. See, when they seat you at the table, you get options. One is playing ball. The other is an all-expenses trip where the piranhas feed. This is me in purest form, exuding something similar to sauna steam. Forge my fury right into the sonic stream. I have zero fucking truck for incremental measures of political idolatry. All these people vying for your 27 grassroots units worth $1 weed. All too proud to wear your issue prominently on their sleeve, but only long enough to rock a photo up. And then they drop it from their speeches cause you gave them all the optics they could ever need. When they tell you that you really need to wait and you don't understand the game, what they really mean to say is they can't wrap their greedy little fucking brains around a fight for what you know you'll probably never see. But what would you expect from people warped by a life spent hunched sucking money from the debt machine? What would you expect from someone constantly reminding you that they are not your enemy? Hi, Jen. White-collar criminals who know the only punishment they're ever gonna face is a handshake, a steak, and a tall glass of clemency. Ask you what a check for what they make in half a day would mean to you and yours, and then drink the tragic story down like Hennessy. Sometimes you gotta break 500,000 people all to make a human omelet to feed to an economy that needs a little energy. Stepping out their limousine and over 500,000 corpses just to hang the banner like America is back and we've been editing our history. We sterilized it whiter than a bleach-backed double shot of Listerine. All those bloody little handprints rinse out in the simple green. Now look at how the shining little city on a hill is newly primed for the kill and is hideously glistening. Thirsting for the gristle of the working class, all the muscle, all the fat, all the single parents we peel off the mat, all their kids prepped for an early death and primed for imprisoning. All up to date on active shooter protocol and well aware that no one's really listening. Cause Biden's here to dunk your little deer into an oil drum and consummate the christening. We'll contemplate the weight of how we're just too late to save after Kamala has risen and the bell outside the mission rings. She'll know your location and be tracking your positioning. And all because a tweet that showed that you don't accept their conditioning. Now you're sitting at a bunker that they swear you're only visiting. And once you've been re-educated, you can be released and have a pretty little blue check. You can commemorate all the trauma we inflicted in the name of socialism's re-envisioning. Now Kamala is risen and the bell outside the mission rings. The cognitive dissonance will set your hopes to blistering. She's walking through the West Wing whistling. America is back and hailing Kissinger a living king. But America is failing every living thing. America is failing every living thing.
Who are these people?
these days of global disaster, all the money disappears with the fame. I'll say what I want and burn my masters. And I suggest you do the same. Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Alright, I won't name names, so he won't call legal. We'll call him Bo Jiden, and he killed Glass-Steagall. He's on the trail, off the rails, profits over people, but I won't call him a Nazi, cause I haven't seen his eagle. But I have seen his equal, and he just left the White House. I've seen his equal, and she lost the fight twice now. I've seen the evil in a man who'd shake the hands of workers, knowing they've been slaving for a feeble wage and little purpose to keep afloat his bloated lifestyle. All to keep us focused on our phones in the meanwhile. You see, if I'm a broken record, this has been a time trial. But I will not go quietly into the future I'm supposed to hand to my child. I will not politely hold my tongue when I see voters in the web of suppression. So I'm about to burn the list of things we shouldn't mention. Alzheimer's causes bouts of both confusion and aggression. Sentences that fall apart and paper-thin patience. Well, I have not spent the past 4 years practicing critiques only to need them for the next administration. And yeah, part of me would love to vote for Trump to really stuff you Biden diatribe junkies who would tie us to a chair to watch him push out Bernie Sanders, say he needs to just accept the loss and have your little celebration. Fuck, I don't know about you, but I got too much love for this misguided nation. So I can't take another president who treats the world like he's a wealthy tourist, just too good to talk to all us Haitians. My only choice should not have to be trading one president who chews the Achilles heel of race relations, plays up all our prejudices, fears, and darkest motivations, for one who also hands us over to the corporations like we've all been sex trafficked. And I wish that was exaggeration, but it's part nightmare, part fascination. It's mostly fascists saying we're a cushion generation, while they got the funding made to lift you out your station, while you miss your shift at your third job because you can't afford your medication. And now the pain of your mobility is tied into the need to keep afloat and keep your family just the side of devastation. And here's the catch to immunization. You might get to have a say in what they give your baby, but in 20 years your baby better be prepared to pay right through the nose to be inoculated. And so don't you be surprised when all your insulin is confiscated, because someone found a buyer who's prepared to hike the price up even higher. And if you land in a coma, just as well, because you're out the conversation. You're not around to stage a demonstration. You're not around to protest human rights being eliminated. Not around to protest all these voters being silenced and intimidated. Now maybe you can hear it in my intonation. One man's revolution is another's renovation. One hand better wash the other or it's amputated. Christ, I hate to be so black and white, but gray has led us straight into the mist and now the lamp is faded. And I don't think that we have very long before the night is falling, quicker than anticipated, quicker than the stocks crashed, quicker than your IRA was withered and emaciated. So why obey the men who saw the crisis that they orchestrated? Why are we so pleased to see a corpse get up and speak that will ignore the way the corpse debated? That he spoke in fragmented misinformation, and that he tried to make an honest man's mistake out of a fabrication, and that all the major networks eat it up and tolerate it. So whose side are they on if they can point it out in Trump but act like they don't see it in the man they want to call our savior, who keeps paying you to do such sick dishonest labor? Oh shit, we do? No shit, me too? Everything you buy will find a way to own or eat you. Companies that feed you fund agendas to defeat you, strip your wits away, rip your wick away, ultimately put you in a place to have to loot to feed your kid today, then detain and beat you. How is such an obvious process not see-through? At least not without a UV light. This year we'll purge our liberty with zero end in sight. So if you can't cast a vote, it gives you hope about our plight. If you pick up the pen, but in your heart it isn't right, think about the millions going hungry every night and have the guts to write in Bernie or have the guts to fight. Hear my words, there's no time to spare. We killed democracy, it's rotting in the square. And with its last breath, it cursed the very air with the toxic miasma of class warfare. Convulsions are brief. It seized for a minute, then it ceased to fidget. It was just deep sleep in a city-wide gibbet. A lot of sweet nothings like the rations we were given. A film crew followed them into the city limits to document the distribution. A little piece of human interest in the mass confusion. Some nice shots of a clean white van and neighbors helping neighbors with their clean white hands. Never mind the boxes being empty like the cans. Never mind a photo op that didn't feed a single man. And this is nothing you could blame on one single man or his supporting an immoral horde of sycophants. We set the stage, we lit the play, we gave the man a script, we highlighted every line he had to say. We're only in this boat because we chose to sail away. We didn't core out the decay, we let it spread. And then we watched the nation warp into the noxious dictatorship it is today. We made conditions perfect. It's almost like we want it this way. Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Hear my words, but don't breathe the air. You and I needn't speak to share. I'm so sick of the waiting now. I feel sick, so I'm laying down. Laying down. And that's Town Hall.
Speaker of the House.
I watched a man decide to stand up for us, then watch them take him away. So I hate to break down your respect for the process, but the process won't be safe. Hi, I'm Nancy. I love ice cream,
I enjoy it.
but not as much as watching people forced out of their homes.
I like it better than anything else.
Watching people forced out in the streets to live alone and knowing that I own every homeless set of bones.
I don't know why, but it seems to agree with me. I have a lot of energy.
And it's all more support for my hideous and ill-gotten throne. The weight of which is too much for you to bear alone, which is why you ended up threadbare alone, kicked off your benefits and left to your own. See, the diner that you worked at was told that it could open up its doors, but there's no clientele, and it's probably just as well because half of the staff didn't last, so they can't come to work anymore. You can't expect a corpse to pull itself through the door to flip omelets for $8 an hour anymore. Make your own food, clean your own floors, fake your own news, fill a whole morgue. Get a film crew out front, but don't let them in the doors. Let's keep it frontline heroes, America soldiers, you know the score. Joe knows the score. I watched the man decide to stand up for us, then watch them take him away. So I hate to break down your respect for the process, but the process won't be safe. Now stop saying the election is so goddamn important. Start telling Joe he needs to rein in his supporters. Oh, that's right. Joe can't even rein in his tongue behind his resin molars. So pardon me for asking for some faculties from somebody vying to control us. I mean, the man is not quite yet speechless, but you can bet he's soulless. And if you thought he would stop the greatest threat that ever held a public office, then you might have been Joe's equal in the ignorance department. But I can guarantee you we will finish what we started, a rabid coalition of activists and politicians, sex workers, educators, artists, all of those who followed Bernie so close and who fell the farthest, who will not falter until all of us are cared for, regardless of whether it would turn a profit. Now, I am not a leader or a teacher or a prophet, but I am here to proudly say today is the day I start campaigning for the role of Speaker of the House that we will build from the bones of the old Congress. And when I say bones, I do not mean framework or stones. I mean literally bones of the old guard keeping us from progress. I mean tonight's the last dawn before things get their darkest. The calm before the storm, the calm before the harvest. I mean, tonight's the last dawn before things get their darkest. I watched a man decide to stand up for us, then watched them take him away. So I hate to break down your respect for the process, but the process won't be safe.
That's Speaker of the House. Long before I'm silent. Kamikaze autopilot. Awful lot of hate in my heart and a propensity for kindness. Adrift in an ocean of centrists and all of the rest of the otherwise eyeless. And I know the instinct to lower one's gaze in the hope of escape is ancestral and timeless. But you need to know that the binds that detain us in no way define us. May everywhere you lay your feet be the battleground. Anywhere you keep the fight in your heart, honey, that's where the fight is. The force of our will is worth more than their might is. The cold touch of steel is worth more than the touch of the Midas. And they can dig canyons or craters or gulfs, but they cannot divide us. We are the poor and the huddled, forever denied until forced into violence. But quell your excitement. The dark mass of clouds seen amassing for war on your placid horizon are born of the toxins of white men, who see themselves more as the gods moving mountains and speaking in lightning than actual human devices. Manifest destiny, narcissist energy, war pigs in crisis. And endlessly each will keep funding their own little personal ISIS. Each will keep feeding delusions of grandeur and masculine righteousness.
Each will pour gas on our hopes and then strike up the match of divisiveness and broadcast it right in our homes and our phones. And the service is free, because for them to see all of that poison take hold is elite level pricelessness. Timeless as oligarchs feeding you mindlessness. So write this as one of those times that I suddenly wished I was sightless, as I listen lifeless to liberals praising our brightest defenders of Western invasion, praising the people defending a flag that has flown over craters of peaceful and sovereign nations bombed off the face of creation, and all to spread something that we call democracy, mockingly, probably. Honestly, we come to starve out your colonies, clear out your properties, claim your resources, and set up a government covered in puppet string, tied to our global agenda and ripe for the summoning. This is how we keep policing the desperate, knowing we foster their suffering. This is the mark of the beast of America. Pull yourself out of the gutter by only the straps of your debt, sharpen your hustle, and build you some character. Break down your body to enter the lottery. Set your sights right on the luxe, comfy life of a senator, something that's really worth coveting. Because down in the streets, it's a storefront morgue. The sheets are boards, and they reek through the coverings. And I'm not saying the sky is falling. I am screaming the heavens are plummeting. Came for the catalyst, stayed for the dread, and that hideous trumpeting. I came for a glimpse of the spirit of war, covered in gore and speaking in gluttonies. A chorus at once both familiar and otherly, shatter my solace while soothing me motherly, mindlessly touch. I'm a hyacinth crumbling under the dirt to the earth, to the worst of discoveries. I came for the cavernous, hideous trumpeting. Then I stayed until I didn't mind, then stayed until I found it comforting. I stayed till the gore was a medal of valor, and all of the war crimes were human and humbling. Stayed until I was defending the caging of children and calling dementia stuttering. I stayed until I was a big fan of access and cautiously skeptic when asked if our healthcare was something our government ought to be covering. Till I was completely complicit in whitewashing immigrant sterilization, refugee separations. I'd stayed until I swore that I still saw justice in all of this bigoted bludgeoning. Not just eugenics parading as something communal in service and properly functioning. Not just eugenics you passively swallow like Xanax when pitched by your favorite brands and your most trusted companies. Not us insisting that progress is Congress collectively stumbling. Not just the Democrats holding the Senate, the House, and the ball and intentionally fumbling. Not just our leadership throwing the fight when it's not their lives on the line, it's our kids on the mat and they're taking a pummeling. Because the hearts of the greedy weep not for the needy, they just pump funds for their own refunneling. They burrow in their wealth like a corpse worm tunneling, stomach full of money, but they'll never see the sun again. It's really kind of funny when you think about it. Then again, it's really so abhorrent I'm on stun again. Mouth agape, my eyes glaze. The drool is positively puddling. The taste of dirt is fresh and newly earthen on my tongue again.